my guest today is Grammy-nominated drummer, composer, band leader, educator, and MacArthur Genius Fellow, Dafnis Prieto. Since his arrival to New York in 1999 from Cuba, Prieto has worked in bands led by Henry Threadgill, Steve Coleman, Eddie Palmieri, Chico and Arturo O'Farrill, Dave Samuels and the Caribbean Jazz Project, Jane Bunnett, Dee Jackson, Edward Simon, Michel Camilo, Chucho Valdés, Bebo Valdés, Roy Hargrove, Don Byron, Andrew Hill, among others. In 2006, Prieto received a Grammy nomination for Best Latin Jazz Album for his album Absolute Quintet. He also received a Latin Grammy nomination for Best New Artist in 2007. In 2011, Prieto was named a MacArthur Genius Fellow with his citation reading, "Electrifying audiences with dazzling technical abilities and rhythmically adventurous compositions while infusing Latin jazz with a bold new energy and sound." Prieto is the founder of the independent music company Dafnis Music. He was a faculty member of jazz studies at NYU from 2005 to 2014, and in 2015 became a faculty member at the Frost School of Music at the University of Miami. In 2016, Prieto published a critically acclaimed drumming instructional book, A World of Rhythmic Possibilities, Drumming Lessons and Reflections on Rhythms. A leader of 7 acclaimed albums, his most recent album release is Back to the Sunset, with the Dafnis Prieto Big Band collaborating with Grammy and Latin Grammy-winning producer Eric Oberstein, and joined by special guests Henry Threadgill, Steve Coleman, and Brian Lynch. Dafnis, such an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Nikhil. It's my pleasure to be part of it. Thanks. Appreciate it.
You know, we were doing research for this interview, and we were just blown away by the fact that you're self-taught. You're a self-taught drummer, and what a high level you play at. I mean, it's really unbelievable. So let's really get into that. You're from Cuba, and when did you exactly pick up like a set of sticks, or when did you really start playing percussion? At what age?
Yeah, I tell you a little bit of how that happens. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, I picked up the guitar. And I started playing guitar. I love the guitar, the acoustic guitar. And I love it. And I start singing songs, from Cuba. And, just I learned a few songs, a few chords, and have fun with it. Then little by little, I start approaching a little bit more to the bongos. Then I start playing bongos on guitar. And then little by little, I start playing a little bit of conga. And then by that time, I was 10 already, and 10 years old, and I went into the music conservatory in Santa Clara, Cuba, when I am from. What I did there in the music conservatory was classical training. So I did a very intensive classical training on percussion, and which include also piano, and includes many other things like solfege and harmony and contrapoint and all the really the tools and the craft of how to understand and music in a different level than just enjoying the music. So I did 4 years of that, and then inside of that school I started playing and practicing drum sets on my own, and that was the beginning of the whole thing of me practicing drum sets on my own.
Dafnis, let me ask you this question. Did you ever have a mentor or a teacher in Cuba that kind of guided you in any way?
Oh yeah, I had different mentors. I mean, I had great conversations. I think most of it, what I got from mentors, and I can mention there was one, still is 85 now, and his name is Roberto Concepcion. And he's from my latest period in my studies, because I met him in Havana already in the National School of Music when I was 14 years old. And, mostly it was very inspiring. He told me stories about, how much musicians practice and how much they really meaning to make this as part of their lifestyle, and things that were really inspirational at that time for me to keep on going and to really focus on what I really wanted to do. And those were really significant lessons for me.
Did you play jazz or did you learn jazz at the same time you were doing classical training?
Yeah, I mean, I learned, I started listening to it, and then, I started replicating, imitating in a way at the beginning, to some recordings, and then, I fell in love with it. And yeah, but all that world of jazz and drumming and composition is really a self-taught process for me.
There's a quote in an interview with Ted Pankin where you mentioned you taught yourself drums with exercises with a technique book by George Lawrence Stone.
Yes, yes. That's actually in one of the chapters of my book, of A World of Rhythmic Possibilities. I dedicate that chapter to that specific part of my initiation in developing, my technique and coordination and independence and many other things on the drum set through using the stick control book by Lawrence Stone. And it was a simple, when you look at it that way, the most, a little, more complicated part is the fact of the act of doing it. It's simple because I like drummers done already, and I think other drummers did it here within the swing. You use the same sticking, and you translate that into the combination in the bass drum and the snare, and then throughout the drum set as well. But then what I did, I added the clave patterns and the cascara pattern and many other different kind of patterns in my right hand. So that really took the whole dynamic of the exercise to a complete different level in terms of coordination and independence. And it was very helpful.
Typically when people self-teach, it's the environment around them that can help them bring them to a very high level. And so were you playing with very high level players at a young age?
I was listening a lot of to a lot of good music, and it was a really inspiring band in Santa Clara named Orquesta de Música Moderna. That was a big band, actually. And this is connected to how I end up doing myself a big band as well. But I was, when I was in the third and fourth year of my the first school in Santa Clara, in the School of Fine Arts, I was already playing with the band, the school band, and we were playing. Actually the school band we had like maybe half of the band were students and the other half were teachers. So we really had the possibility to connect and to learn so much, by being there and I'm absorbing the experience through playing with the teachers and of course they were much more better level of musicianship at that time that we were, So yes, I was connected with that.
Let me ask you, how many hours did you play a day in that period of your life?
Well, mostly, it really depends the day, but I really took it with a lot of passion. I mean, many times the less amount of time that I practiced was 1 to 2 hours a day. That's the less I practice on that time. I mean, the more it could be 6 to 8. It really depends, at the same time, this is a special school. I was doing the regular classes, like mathematics and physics and biology and all that kind of classes. I did it in the morning or in the afternoon. Some years changed. And then either or, then in the afternoon, I did music. And then, at night, I get the chance to practice, do my homework, and play. And that was, a routine for 4 years. That's a lot of learning and a lot of practicing. And on top of it, I was staying in the school. So I was inside there. I wasn't really wasting that much time going back and forth from home. I just stayed there.
And for the classical training, how much of an influence was it on your playing? Because it's not a traditional drum set, but how did it influence you?
It transcribed into understanding and appreciating music, and also, obviously, it influenced you. I mean, it influenced me immensely because I learned how to appreciate different kind of music and the intents of different music. In mostly in the classical world, but there's a lot of music already within the classical world and different kind of music within the classical world. Regardless of the style, it's all music, and you get to learn and you get to practice it, and that's what everything is about. It's about being with this constant touch and reminding of yourself how much you love it and how much you enjoy that, and then obviously that will grow.
Do you remember what pieces you were playing in the conservatory, or which composers you were playing, part of the orchestra?
Well, I play different things. I play some stuff from Bach and some stuff from Mozart and some different things. I play some basically in different things. I play it on the xylophone, and I play it also on the piano. So different composers from different times.
You mentioned that the sound of the Cuban rhythms and the clave, that is very much innate in you and probably people
Yes.
from your culture, in the same way like if a kid grows up in a Baptist church and he has that gospel feel and that sound. Now, let's just, for people who are listening who don't really quite understand the environment in Cuba, describe like the average day for like a person in Cuba when it comes to music, in terms of music. What would they hear on a given day and when you were growing up?
Well, I can only say from my own experience. And in terms of that, for example, when I was a kid, that let's say that I was not going to school, that I was in the middle of the summer break or something like that, I wake up and then already by the mid of the day or by 11 o'clock in the morning, I have encountered at least one or two people that were going to a rehearsal, that were rehearsing. People rehearses in the house, and they live with their house with the windows open and their doors open. So it was very easy for me to access that kind of experience because it was almost around my neighbor. I was born in a poor neighborhood, which was very cultural and very musical. So I used to listen to rumba and to carnival rehearsing, the carnival bands rehearsing in the corner of my house, and also during the rest of the year, people used to rehearse in their houses, or they just meet and start playing music. So music is a big part of it. It's not something that you only learn in a closed settings, with closed doors inside of a room or a school. It's something that it was very easy to access, even though I am not coming from any musicians in my family or any artist.
Yeah, you mentioned that your family is not particularly of that background.
But I was involved with music since so early age, and I was driven by, I have friends with me. They used to sneak into the rehearsals also and listen to music and talk to musicians, and they didn't become musicians. They just enjoy it, and that was about it. But for me, I took it much more farther because it was much more meaningful to me in that way.
Now, one more thing is you said you were self-taught. Now, you have a phenomenal technique. Were you conscious from an early age, or did your classical training influence this in a way? Were you really particular on your technique when it came to the normal drum set?
Yeah, well, I think I worked hard on the technique during the school in the classical training. Classical training is really a lot to do with the technique of the instruments as well, to get a good sound and to get a good, feeling of what you're playing. Um, I guess when I start playing drums, I start applying all that into the drum set, but not really, being that conscious of it. It was almost as the consequence of what I was working already in my classical training. So I think that the classical training affects positively, I hope, to my playing on the drum set. I love timpani, so therefore I love playing with mallets, and I love to get different kind of sounds out of the drum set.
Who are your heroes growing up as a kid? Like when and they don't have to be particularly drummers, but you can mention drummers too. But did you have any idols growing up in or any heroes?
Yeah, I mean, the earliest heroes were the ones that were closer to me, and those heroes were the bands that I used to listen rehearsing. And specifically, I used to listen to this band that I mentioned to you, the Orquesta de Música Moderna, which this band, they had a great drummer. His name is, his nickname was El Peje. And he was from Santa Clara, and he played in that big band settings. And I loved that. I loved everything that he played, and it really inspired me a lot. So he was one of my first inspiration, someone that I could see live, playing in front of me. And then also, some other musicians from Cuba, like Changuito, who is a great friend and, a great percussionist. Many people in the world knows him. And also Miguel Angá Diaz, a conga player who used to play with Irakere, and Tata Wines, who is a master in the congas also, and a few others that play in different bands. But that was the beginning. Then later on, I started listening to other drummers, and then American drummers like Buddy Rich and Max Roach and Elvin Jones, and you name it, Jack DeJohnette, and many others.
Oh, let's segue to that. Now, you've played with some amazing musicians in your career. Now, let's talk about a few of them. Let's talk about Steve Coleman. And you mentioned through Steve, I discovered the playing and music of Max Roach, which was huge, and the music from South India and Ghana. So, yeah, let's talk about Steve Coleman a little bit.
Well, with Steve Coleman, I play on and off for a fair amount of years. He has a particular way of doing things, and it's very oral in a way, so the information gets passed to each other through hanging and really rehearsing and being together in the bandstand, doing the thing. So and I learned, it's a lot of research involved into that, and through being playing with him and doing all that process of the learning experience of his music, I got to really listen to great records, from Charlie Parker, and also others, so like Sonny Rollins and Coltrane, and many others. But yes, I did, and I heard deeply some recordings with Max Roach, and I really got connected with Max playing. I was more familiar at that time with Elvin Jones playing, and I was really into it. All those latest records that he did with mostly with Coltrane. But then Max's approach was completely different to that musically, and it was much inside of the bebop playing than Elvin. So I learned, and I learned much more about Max Roach playing through Steve, because we listened to a lot of music together, and I start analyzing things and and describing things. And
did you play much swing in Cuba, or was it mainly like Latin jazz?
No, I play swing in Cuba also with some of my friends that they obviously like swing also. Yeah, but there is uh not much really like people like play swing in Cuba. I mean, there are a few that play swing in Cuba, but not much.
When you arrived in New York in '99, what was the difference in American Latin jazz versus actual Cuban Latin jazz?
Well, when you say Cuban, it really kind of focuses the attention obviously into Cuban music. Latin jazz, in a way, to me, it just involves so many other different kind of things. Uh, like it could be any other rhythm from any other place in Latin America, which is a lot. I mean, the difference, I don't know. I think many of the bands that I was seeing that they say they call themselves Latin jazz, it just sounded a little bit like salsa without the voice. It sounds like salsa without vocals, and it sounds like instrumental salsa really, in terms of the style and approach of music. Nothing wrong with it. It's just different. So um, you know, we start somehow developing a different approach because we were coming from a generation that was listening already to Coltrane and other musicians like Branford Marsalis and Jeff Tain Watts on drums and so many other things that were happening, and that influenced us.
Now let's talk about you played with Eddie Palmieri and Chucho Valdés.
Mhm.
Describe your experiences working with Chucho Valdés.
Yeah, I actually played with him 2 days ago. Yeah, I played with him at Spoleto Festival in South Carolina in Charleston. I don't play that often with Chucho. He has his own quartet. He has, obviously everybody knows his work with Ida Kere and many other things. He has his regular quartet and he does different projects, etc. And, often, little, not that often, I will say, I play with him. I actually did the first time I played with him, it was maybe 10 years ago or a little bit more in New York. We play at the Village Vanguard, and we were there a full week there, and that was my first time experience with him. I think actually before that I played with him in Stanford University in a few occasions doing that summer camp. Um, and then actually a couple days ago, I played with him, just rarely, but but it has been a great experience. Chucho is a master musician. He's a great pianist.
Why is Chucho Valdés great?
When you listen to someone and you almost listening to the history of what comes before him in so many different ways, uh, independently from what he his creative outcome of what to do with that culture. But the way he plays really, I mean, it's very virtuosic and also tender at the same time. So you have this pianist with an enormous technique, an enormous command of his instrument and his ideas, and very rhythmic at the same time, coming from Cuba. So there are a lot of things going on, but it's very powerful playing. It's very rhythmic, very virtuosic.
How does that compare with an Eddie Palmieri?
Well, Eddie, Chucho is much more virtuosic piano player than Eddie. Eddie is much more closer to that tradition of um, of salsa and Cuban music and song, Cuban music. But Chucho Valdés playing is more towards a jazz sound, which is, as I say, much more improvisation with different kind of the different vocabulary in the playing because of the improvisation and because of the chords he uses are differently than in this case Eddie, who comes from a more dancing oriented music.
Now, how important is dance in Cuba?
Oh, it is very important. It's like it just comes together with music basically. I mean, most of the music styles that you are going to see in Cuba, they all have a specific dance that goes with it. So it is as important as the music itself.
A lot of people need to know that really dance is quite integral to this music in a way.
Yeah, it's interesting because people always feel a little bit more hesitant about dancing. It kind of encourages you to take away that shame or that of moving your body, and like some people are just shy or feel just too introverted to move the body in front of someone else. But we don't have those problems in Cuba.
Now, Henry Threadgill was an influence on you, and he won the 2016 Pulitzer Prize for In a Penny and for a Pound. Now, describe his influence on you, and can you talk about your experience working with him and what he means to you?
Yeah, Henry's a great friend. I mean, he became a great friend of mine through the years. When I got to New York, we met before, even when I was still living in Cuba, which I came a couple of times to New York before that. It was before I made the decision to stay for good. So I know him for over 20 years already, and I loved his music. First time I heard his music, it came to my mind. I say, wow, how can I describe this music in myself? It's not to put a label or anything, but how this will sound. What is this? How the way and I at that time, 25 years ago, when I heard it, I thought that was the music that I could hear, that I could possibly hear on my dreams. But when I wake up, it disappeared. So it was to me a little bit of surrealistic music in a way.
Yeah, you mentioned labels, right? So, I mean, he gets labeled like avant-garde jazz, free jazz. What do you think about that?
I don't like labels. I don't really like labeling because it really frames what it should not be framed. For many people, it's comforting because they only want to do that and they want to represent that. But for the other people that they do not want to represent only that, then it's limiting, you see.
Did he influence your compositions?
Oh, he did big time. Yeah, I think Henry's composition had influenced my way of playing and my way of thinking about music and my way of approaching music. But definitely the composition. Yeah.
And you're completely self-taught, right, in composition?
Yeah.
When did you start writing music? Can you remember when you started putting pencil to paper?
Yeah, I was about 20 years old or so. I was part of a really good band in Cuba that we made ourselves. It was called Columna B, which in English means column B. And we were, I was surrounded by these musicians. We were 4 members in the band, and they used to bring songs and tunes, and we played and the whole thing. And I was influenced by them greatly, to the point that I started writing music for the band as well. And that was when I was 20. When I came to New York, then I really took it to a different level because I really wanted to make my own band here, and to really just express myself through composing my own music as well.
You've said that you write at the piano, right? But you're quite an accomplished pianist. What's your approach to composition? Let's say you're faced with a blank piece of paper. How do you start?
It comes from different sources. I don't have really a specific way of doing it. It can come from a shape. I can imitate a shape and try to put it on a piece of paper of music. It can come from any mathematic. idea or equation or structure. It could come from music itself, but it could come from literature. It can come from a bass line. It could come from simply a melody. So I don't really have a specific way of doing it. I don't. That's why every song that I write has its own entity and its own life and its own way of being and its own strategy. If I use the same strategy and the same way of doing composition for all of my songs, then all of my songs are going to be the same. That's why I have to use different strategies and try to look for something interesting and different that I haven't done before, so that I can do something else in this music in that current time.
In what ways do you feel you've grown in your writing compared to, like, maybe say 10 years ago?
Oh, in the strategies in themselves, the strategies of how to manipulate the information, either melodically or harmonically or rhythmically. I mean, I've been exposed to different other kind of music, and that helped me analyze that music and understanding that and somehow, generate something that might be influenced by it. I'm not doing music for the sake of formula. I'm not using a particular formula that was given to me. I have to find it myself, and I'm still finding it. And not only that, but I'm not really interested in any formula.
Being self-taught in composition, how did you seek out to train yourself? Like, what did you look up? Harmony books? Did you look up books on book? Or can you mention a few of the things that you looked up?
Sure. I mean, I looked at a couple of scores, mostly within the classical umbrella, but I had the tools. I knew harmony. I knew counterpoint. I knew what a chord was, how it sounded like. I knew melody, and obviously I knew rhythm. What else do you want to know to compose something? You just need to be clever to put all those things together. But you have the tools already. You have the information is there. So really, composition is to really the art of how you're going to manipulate the information you have or the information you can create to the point that is compositionally appealing or somehow descriptive in a way that's closer to what your intents are.
I want to talk about another person that you played with, the great pianist Michel Camilo.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's some. In fact, there's a YouTube. It's on YouTube, an entire concert of you and Charles Flores playing with Michel Camilo in Germany, I think. And there's some obscene, like there's a track of you playing A Night in Tunisia that has like 500,000 views or something, and it's just a great performance. Now, how did you get working with Michel Camilo, and can you just talk about working with him a little bit?
Yeah, I came to New York, and then about 2 or 3 years, for some reason, Michel was having some kind of audition for drummers, and he heard from me from this great bass player, Andy Gonzalez, that is Jerry Gonzalez's brother, and they used to play for Apache and anyway Conjunto Libre and many other things. They're great musicians. But anyway, he heard about me from Andy, and Andy recommended him to call me. So one day I got home and I received and I heard a voicemail by Michel, and I was really excited. I said, "Oh, look, Michel Camilo just called me now." So I went to do the audition, and we did the audition. I didn't actually play with him for a while after that, and then when it was about time, he called me up, And he said, would you want to do the gig? And I say, sure, I do it.
Can you recount the audition? What happened in the audition? What did he ask you to play?
Very interesting, actually, because at that time, my head was different in a different way musically, different place. And I didn't really remember much of his music. I knew how he sounded like, but I didn't remember a particular music. So I was a little bit embarrassed when he asked me, well, let's play something that you might know of me. And I couldn't,
Oh dear.
I couldn't really come up with anything. And but we did that audition, and it was Anthony Jackson on bass. But then we played, well, that was part of it. But we went and we play other songs. I don't remember the specific song. Maybe we play a blues in a Latin way and then exchange it to swing, or maybe we play some, I don't remember, maybe some kind of 6/8 thing. And then it felt really good. It felt really good, and Michel was really happy with it, and Anthony as well. We had a good chemistry playing.
Yeah, you're right. The chemistry. If people see this video of the night in Tunisia, like when you take your solo, I mean, he's just grinning. He loves it. He's a big smile on his face, and Charles Flores is digging it. And was it a lot like that? Was he always like digging your playing while you were taking solos and just laying a groove down?
Yeah, we really enjoy being on the stage and enjoy each other being there. I mean, you have to really feel blessed somehow in a very special way when you get to play with musicians that are very high level of playing, but also as a person, they're really good persons, and you're sharing something very important in your life with good person. How much better could that be in life in terms of experience?
No, I was actually really saddened to read that the bassist Charles Flores passed away like 5 years, 3 or 4, and from I think it was throat cancer, and that's really sad, and a really young age of 41. Can you give a little bit of a remembrance of Charles Flores? Yeah,
I did. He was like my brother. I used to hang out with him a lot because we toured a lot, and eventually I met him, playing and stuff like that through Michel Camilo, but also he became part of my bands. So he started actually playing with my quartet, the COC quartet, and he did the record live at the Jazz Standard with me. And I love his playing, and I love him as a human as well, and as a friend. And it was very meaningful to me. I actually, when he passed, I dedicated a song named Flores, and that song is part of the record before this one, the big band, with the sextet. So in the Triangles and Circles, that's the name of the record that I released in 2015. This is a sextet album, and I dedicate one song to him named Flores.
Oh, I definitely want to get into the big band. But before I actually get into the big band, let's talk about your instructional book, A World of Rhythmic Possibilities. Now, what's in this book that you really needed to write, and what ideas did you want to get out into the world?
I think most of everything in it hasn't been published yet. I think the book has an immense amount of new material and new, fresh ideas for drummers, not only for drummers, but for anyone that is into developing rhythm and developing, how to make those rhythms in a way. The way it came to me, because, I wanted to do a book, a real drum book that didn't only just give the rhythms like that. I want to have the approach of a teacher, of a professor, the same way we teach, or at least I do, which is, explaining things and how this thing come out, and with an analytical point of view as well. So it's instructional, it's analytical, it's thoughtful in so many different ways, and obviously, it carries all my experience through how creativity and and the innovation in terms of developing different possibilities rhythmically in order to make that happen. The bottom of it is how much you can do with what we already know in terms of material. So that was the focus of it, and I'm really happy with it. It's a thick book. It took me 6-7 years.
Wow.
To
and
write.
Not only that, I mean, if you buy the book, you're going to get audio samples too. You're going to get some video clips. There's a lot of content there.
That's right. Yeah, it has 300 and something 338 audio tracks, and it has 33 video clips.
Okay, so we're getting into now your latest album release, Back to the Sunset, with the Dafnis Prieto Big Band. It's a phenomenal album. How long did it take for you to compose the music for this album?
Yeah, well, it took me relatively, the whole preparation of it took like a year. Some of the songs already were written, but I had to rearrange them for a bigger configuration. Some others were completely new. It took me like a year, to on and off to really, get the whole music and the whole arrangement going on. But it was a lot of work, and it was very rewarding as well. I really had a great time doing the composition and arrangements for this particular album. It was my first big band album with all of my music in it. I wrote before. I've written music for big band, and specifically commissioned by Arturo O'Farrill, which is Latin jazz orchestra. And that's the way I met Eric Orenstein. He was working with Arturo a while back, maybe 10 years ago or something like that.
Okay, so let's start with track 1, Una Vez Más, featuring Brian Lynch. And talk a little bit about Brian Lynch.
Yeah, well, Brian is a great friend. He's a great trumpet player. I met Brian in Stanford University more than 20 years ago. And then when I came to New York, we started playing together. I started playing with one of his projects. And we connected then. After that, we played in so many different configurations, including the Eddie Palmieri. When we played with Eddie Palmieri, he was the person who make the contact of me playing with Eddie. And we actually currently teaching at the same school, at Frost School of Music in the University of Miami. And this is a song that I dedicated originally to Eddie Palmieri and Brian when we were having this special project that we had, the jazz project. And then I dedicated also to Tito Puente, who is a great percussionist and a great musician, a great arranger and composer that really inspired me very much as well.
Now, what about Sooner the Better, track number 2?
Yeah, the Sooner the Better is a song that was previously written. I wrote that song a while back for one of my sextet albums called Taking the Soul for a Walk. And I love that song. It just had a good feel because it goes to so many different changes in it. So anyway, that's for. I mean, it's important to say that each particular song in this record, I kind of give it I make a dedication. Anyway, that's I create a connection on that song that it was dedicated to Alberto Gismonti and actually Jerry Gonzalez as well. So, I mean, it's hard because I don't compose with a genre in mind, and I don't compose, as I say, with a particular preconceived idea. I think I can kind of interact with that moment of composing. And this song, The Sooner the Better, it just took so many different routes.
Now, what about track number 3, Out of the Bone?
Out of the Bone is a song that I dedicate to the trombone players.
Yeah, there's a video of it on YouTube. I really encourage people to check it out. It is awesome. I think there's Alan Ferber playing trombone. There's some heavyweights playing.
Yeah, the trombone section was really, really good, and I took care of doing some really exciting trombone arranging in this album. I love trombone.
Why do you like the trombone so much?
I like the flexibility of it. I think that idea of glissing and that the specific sound of it is just such a warm, medium low range sound that I like, opposite to a crisp, high, strident, sounding. I just love it, and it's an instrument that you can use in so many different configurations, from classical music to street music.
Right. Does it feature in Cuban music a lot on the street and people playing trombones?
Oh yeah. It features on the street music, in carnival music, and also popular music.
Now, track 4 features Henry Threadgill, "Back to the Sunset."
That's a track that gives name to the album. This is a song that I dedicated to Henry Threadgill and Andrew Hill. I also had the pleasure and the honor to actually play a few times with Andrew Hill as well as Henry Threadgill. And they're to me very particular guys. I mean, obviously, they play very particular music, and they did their own music. And the song, the idea of "Back to the Sunset," and this will kind of connect with the name of the album. It was that I wanted to give somehow tribute to all these musicians that I've been, able to play with them and learn from them, and many others that I didn't have the opportunity to play with them, but still I was influenced by and somehow, learn from them. And "Back to the Sunset" to me was an invitation to go to that meditative place of a sunset. To me, it's very one of the most my favorite time of the day is really the sunset part. I think it's very, very, very spiritual and very, in a way, introverted, of feeling appreciation and feeling, blessed and so many other things.
And now, track number 5, there's also a video of this on YouTube, Dansón Popurí.
Yeah, the Dansón Popurí is a potpourri. It's really a medley of different danzones that I've written in the past, and I rearrange them and I connect them in a way. And the last part of this Dansón Popurí actually features the song that I mentioned to you that was dedicated to Charles Flores. So it features. That's why at the end of it you can see Peter Affobam playing the melodica, and that's the part that actually is connected to the song Flores from Triangles and Circles.
That accordion sound, it does, you hear it, right, in Cuban music and in Latin American music. Is the accordion a very important instrument on the street, and is it very common?
Well, actually, no. In Cuban music, you don't really have the accordion per se. And that instrument is not the accordion, it's actually the melodica. So Peter is actually playing the melodica, which is funny that you say that, because that's one of the reasons why I and many people like the melodica, is because it has that similar sound to the accordion, which is very, it's airy, but also very romantic, very, it just has heard a lot in all European gypsy music, for example.
Yeah. Now, track 6 has Steve Coleman, who we talked about, "Song for Chico."
Yeah, "Song for Chico" is a song that I wrote maybe 10 years ago. So for the Latin jazz, the Afro Latin Jazz Orchestra, for Arturo O'Farrill, and he actually commissioned me to write a song, and I dedicated this song to his father, Chico O'Farrill, and who I have the pleasure also to work with in a few occasions in New York. with his big band. And so I wrote a song for him, and then I want to re-record the song. I mean, they recorded it. Arturo recorded it, and they actually named the record as the song, which they won the Grammy with that record as well. So anyway, yeah, that's dedicated to Chico O'Farrill.
The last three tracks, Prelude, Para Rosa, 2 for 1. Yeah, go for Prelude, Para Rosa.
Prelude Para Rosa was originally something that I wrote for my mom. Rosa is my mother, and it's just a wonderful melodic piece. And then, you know, I just dedicated this time to two great friends of mine who has that kind of tender relationship with me in a way. So. And
2 for 1.
2 for 1 is a very solid and rhythmic song. 2 for 1 is because you have actually two songs inside of one, and that's the idea behind it. Basically, I mean, there is a lot of playing and a lot of soloing in that song as well. It's a fun.
Would it be fair to say, Dafnis, that you yourself as the player a little bit more restrained and you're letting the other players shine on this album?
Maybe so. I never been. I mean, you know, in the live performance, I take my time for soloing and stuff like that. But I'm never seeing my music as from the drum oriented, from the drum chair. I don't see myself as a drummer. I don't see music as a drummer because I am one. Specifically because I am one. So I don't. When I write music and when I conceive music, I put myself as the listener. What do I want to hear? That's what I want to play. You know, I'm not going to put, you know, just create, you know, it might be something unique or for, you know, for drums and stuff like that, but I don't see music that way. I think when I hear music, I hear all its elements. I don't hear only drums or something like that. So to me, that's the way I write also.
I agree with you completely. And now the last track, the Triumphant Journey.
Yeah, Triumphant Journey. This is a song that I dedicate to Dizzy Gillespie and Chano Pozo, and this is a very uplifting song that has a very catchy theme as well. It's in 6/8 feel, and it's you know, very exciting song to play indeed.
It's such a great album. It's so much energy. It's really got some fantastic musicians, and you put a year's work. You can really tell that there's really thoughtful arrangements, and it's really, really well made. And credit to you, and credit to Eric Oberstein as well for putting it all together. I mean, it's truly a great, great album, and congratulations on completing it. And look forward to lots of people listening to it. It's truly a great album.
Sure. Well, thank you. I'm really happy with the way it came out also, and I hope you know, many people get the opportunity to listen to it, and that's it. We see what's going to come next.
Now, I have to end off. I have a couple of fun questions just to ask you, because I just off the top of my head, and I always wanted to ask a drummer this. Who are your and it might be hard to narrow it down to 3, but can you give me 3 drummers that you really like, historically or alive today?
Buddy Rich, Max Roach, and Elvin Jones.
Why Elvin Jones, Buddy Rich, and Max Roach?
Well, Buddy Rich is a heck of a drummer. I mean, you know, his technique is unbelievable, and his finesse on how to apply that technique on the drum set in so many different ways, virtuosically, but also dynamic and in the whole thing. He was an unbelievable drummer.
Now, what about Max Roach?
Max Roach is a very melodic player, and he started really developing this question and answer thing within the bebop style, and that was really, really something.
And what about Elvin Jones?
Elvin Jones is much more round sounding drummer, very aggressive in the sound itself, not because he virtuosically means to do a lot of things, but because his sound is so powerful and big. And also, I just, I say round because he never sounded to me like he was thinking about a specific part of the drum set, but about the whole thing at once. And that's the way it came out to me. For me, it's just a big, full sound of energy and intense.
Who are some Latin drummers or Latin jazz drummers and percussionists that you like?
Well, in that style, there are many of there are a few of them. I mean, I play with great percussionists, for example, like Giovanni Hidalgo, and percussionists like Pedro Martinez as well, and Richie Flores, and the percussionist that I use, Roberto Quintero, who's a great percussionist as well. There are many of them.
Now, let's switch over quickly to composition. Who are your favorite composers? Contemporary composers?
Well, I like, wow. That's a tricky question. Because there's so many different styles, you see. I like Andrew Hill's composition and also Henry Threadgill's composition. I don't know. I mean, there are so many different. It's hard for me because I'm not the kind of. If you ask another musician who sticks with one thing, then that might be easier for him to answer. But for me, since I don't have that way of thinking, I listen to music, I enjoy it, and I move on and I do something else. I'm not sticking to something in particular. I love Thelonious Monk's composition as well.
And I guess the final question would be, since there are a lot of drummers who admire you so much, what's the best advice you can give to another drummer, or at least a new drummer starting out, or somebody who wants to drum like you?
Well, to me, it's really very simple. Just to remind yourself the reasons why you play in drums and music, because many times, down the road it just becomes, you have to make a lot of choices, and some of those choices already kind of cut or take away the real reason why you become a drummer. Then some people start making choices like, making more money and stuff like that. Making more money and playing less drums, for example. So that's something that is really, kind of hurting the music a lot as well, because you have really talented musicians who will just, they just want to make money. But to me, the big thing is carried by the passion and what is it that you want to do on the drum set. I mean, drumming is not one thing, but so many different things, and there is so many different ways of drumming. But the core of it is that same passion, to carry really that same passion that we had when we were kids and we really like music. Remember that music comes through your ears, not through your eyes. You have to listen. Because, many people learn drumming now as a notation, because they get it in the school or they learn, through books and stuff like that. But music is really through your ears. And you have to really use your ears and listen to a lot of music and imagining music and singing music will help a lot to play the drum sets. Try to play what you want to hear.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic advice from a genius, from a literal genius, Dafnis Prieto. It's been officially recognized. Dafnis, thank you so much. You're just a tremendous musician. We're so lucky to be able to talk to you. You know what? Talking about money, I hope you make a ton of money with this album. Hope you get a Grammy with this album. You definitely deserve it for all your hard work, and people will really enjoy this album. I'm absolutely sure of it. So thank you again, and listen, I hope you come back. I hope you had a good time on the show.
It's my pleasure, and I wish you all the best with this show and any other show that you will do in the future. And keep up the good work.